you want a revolution?
You know, I suppose any revolution is defined by a group of people who choose to challenge the establishment.
And we're trying to break at least the recent tradition of brewing in America. That's the revolution. That's our revolution.
You know, the beer community is a passionate community. They understand what's going on. So I think people are curious about what we're doing here.
I see the craft industry as just getting started. It's just barely ignited. And I think we're right in the center of that ignition. And it's a great place to be.
Our brewery is based in the middle of a great wine region, Paso Robles. One that's unpretentious, growing, full of brilliant individuals. That's what makes us different, is who we are, where we are, people we are.
We are all about accomplishing a very narrow range of beers and taking it to absolute perfection.
Very focused on quality and improving our processes, improving ourselves. I mean, we're constantly challenging ourselves to be better.
Quality of the ingredients, quality of the process, the quality of the staff.
As we like to say, we're living beer. It's hard to get away from it. We wake up in the morning, that's what we think about.
We live the beer. We're all about the beer. We're all about improving and perfecting the beer.
It's what we're all into. It's our hobby. It's what we're passionate about. You know, you only live once. We like to say, if we're going to live beer.
So we're talking about the Pale series here at Firestone Walker. It starts with DBA and ends with our hoppier IPA. This brewery started brewing pale ale. In fact, our very first beer is an English pale ale. So our whole Pale series really centers on that foundational piece. In the case of Firestone, really it comes down to layering of hops and layers of more extreme flavors as we've evolved as a brewery. Double Barrel Ale is the flagship of the Firestone fleet. It's the original beer that Adam, David, and Jeffers Richardson, our original brewmaster, came up with. It's an English pale ale, or otherwise known as English bitter. The Double Barrel Ale recipe is steeped in English tradition. It uses maris otter and pale malts. It uses Munich malt. It uses caramel malts sourced from the UK. And those caramel malts are actually quite special. They lend this nice caramely, soft, toasted malt character to that beer that really makes it sessionable and enjoyable. And of course, it's fermented in medium toast American oak. We're using the barrel for flavor. That flavor that we get from the barrels is a combination of oak tannin, which lends vanilla, toffee, and it just lends that fifth element that only oak can bring to beer. The hops we use for Double Barrel Ale are very traditional. We use East Kent Goldings grown in the Kent region just south of London. We also use Styrian Goldings, which are Fuggle hops grown on the continent. They lend this beautiful, noble-like, resiny character that's very agreeable, not fruity and pungent like our IPA and Pale Ale, but just resiny, soft, and beautiful. No matter when I have it, it's just a really friendly, easy drinking beer, and it's become the taste of the Central Coast. Pale 31, which was originally called Windsor Pale Ale, is the second beer in the Firestone lineup. It's really a straight-ahead American-style pale ale, and we took what was originally kind of an English bitter base and brought some West Coast American hop love. So when designing Pale 31, I had in my mind the body of a Pilsner with the aggressive hoppiness of an IPA. So we took a very light-bodied pale ale and threw a whole lot of hops at it. We used Centennial, Cascade, and Chinook hops, with Centennial being the lead dog. Centennial has this beautiful, citrus, almost juicy fruit ester to it, and it's actually dry hopped with the Centennial hops. It's perfect for all occasions. Fish tacos, steak, time at the beach. I love that beer, anytime, every day. Union Jack is basically Pale 31's big brother. It has all the things that pale ale has in the way of light, malt, toast, and hop, but everything's turned up a notch. It's got just tons of hop character and expression. Union Jack incorporates not only Cascade and Centennial, but we bring a couple of the newer cultivars to the table. We have Amarillo, we have Simcoe, and a touch of Citra hops. We try to use a blend of hops in these beers to make sure that from season to season we can bring consistency to the table, but that we also have this nice round flavor profile throughout the beer. Union Jack uses 4 pounds of hops per barrel brewed, compared to DBA, which is 1 pound per barrel. That means it is a hoppy brew. I love all my children, but I really love Union Jack. It truly is an American-style West Coast IPA, but it has the immense balance and drinkability that is at the base of all Firestone beers. So in 2009, we came out with the Firestone Seasonal Series. We had a long time to think about what we wanted to do and tried a lot of different recipes over the course of time. Solus is our first seasonal release. Solus is a fusion wheat beer. It takes the elements of a Belgian wit or Belgian style pale ale and infuses the soft textures and banana and clove of Bavarian Hefeweizen. Straight from the tap, you're going to see a hazy opalescence from the protein and yeast left behind because we don't filter. You're going to see a nice pillowy, white, foamy, frothy head and a really nice effervescence. The Bavarian Hefeweizen portion is literally brewed separately as Bavarian Hefeweizen. We use the yeast from Bavaria and we ferment at a warmer temperature to give that nice ester and fruity characteristic. We really nail the banana and I love that part of a Bavarian Hefeweizen. The Belgian Pale Ale portion helps bring the spiciness, a little more of that drinkability, and all those characteristics that you like in Belgian wit beer. So really, it truly is a fusion of 2 separate beers that come together to make what I find just to be the perfect fish taco summer seasonal beer. Velvet Merlin is the second beer in our seasonal series here at Firestone Walker. Velvet Merlin's flavor profile centers in on roasty, chocolate, coffee-like characteristics that are brought to the beer through the use of roast barley. We use 15% oat in this beer. The toasted oats that we use have a nice toasty characteristic to them, and it really lends to a nice texture and body in the beer. The hops that we use in Velvet Merlin are 100% US grown, more specifically Willamette Valley grown Fuggles. It adds a very subtle, slightly spicy, but more noble English quality that shouldn't stand out. This beer isn't about the hops, it's all about the malt, the middle, the chewiness of the oats, and just that wonderful texture that comes from an oatmeal stout. The Proprietor Reserve series of beers are a select number of recipes, many of which have been simmering on the back burner that we finally released in special either 22-ounce format or 4-pack format in very small, limited amounts. They contain the year-round beers like Double Jack, Wookie Jack, and Walker's Reserve, along with a number of our anniversary or one-off vintage series beers. Double Jack Imperial IPA is the lead dog in this group, the very first beer that we came out as a year-round Proprietor's Reserve release. We started playing around a little bit with triple dry hopping. So Union Jack has 2 dry hops, Double Jack has a 3rd dry hop. Double Jack is Union Jack's big brother, and remember, Union Jack is Pale 31's big brother, so you see a bit of a theme that is kind of developing here within our hoppy beer lineup. But the beer is no doubt all about the hops. There's Simcoe hops in there, there's Citra hops in there, Amarillo, Cascade, Centennial, Chinook. I mean, pretty much the whole hop closet's in that bottle. Double Jack specifically is one of the trickiest beers we make. There's just so many steps, there's so many places we're adding hops, there's so many different mashing processes. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in that beer that makes for a tough work day for our brewers. So I always walk out on the brew deck and apologize on the Double Jack brew day. Walker's Reserve Porter is a recipe that's been with the brewery since the very beginning. When we came up to Paso Robles, we started brewing this beer in a little bigger format, and we started integrating more barrel fermentation, and we added bottle conditioning to the 22-ounce bottles. Now, like with all of our other dark beers, if light does not pass through it, we don't filter it. So if Reserve is an unfiltered beer, about 50% of it is fermented in the Firestone Union. So it actually has the largest percentage of oak of any of our beers. It brings vanilla, oak, tannin, and in the case of the porter, I get a little more of that toasted coconut characteristic. It uses East Kent Goldings, which bring a nice resinous hop character, but we also use a little bit of Cascade, which gives it a little American twist. And the bottle condition just helps to create this really soft and beautiful texture in that beer. It's much more about the aggressiveness of chocolate malt, and it has that barrel fermentation piece. So not so hoppy on the stout in our lineup, and a little more hop aggressive in the porter in our lineup. Wookey Jack is another part of our Proprietor's Reserve series of beers. And yes, it's a black IPA, but in our case, it's a special black IPA. We used rye. I thought, how cool would it be to kind of incorporate rye spiciness with hop spiciness and use the black IPA as the format. Black IPAs, when made properly, don't actually taste like they look. Yes, they're very dark in color, but their flavor is all about the hops. And the hops that we chose for Wookey Jack are Amarillo and Citra. Now these are two newer cultivars, but I really love the flavors that those hops bring. You move these two together with the rye, and it just creates this flavor explosion. With a name like Wookey, we're really trying to come up with something that is a little more gnarly, unkept, more out of the norm of the Firestone lineup. And somehow, even when we try to make a gnarly aggressive beer, it takes on this kind of Firestone balance and drinkability. I don't know if it's our yeast or just the skill of our brewers, but as hard as we tried to make a gnarly beer, the Wookey is actually quite a nice drinking beer.